Today, we are getting right into the messy reality of how huge innovations actually happen. So forget about the clean lab coats and the perfect equations on a whiteboard. We are going deep into the chaos, the high-pressure cooker, where stress and confusion and just, personal struggle actually end up forging the most incredible breakthroughs. And that's really the big question, isn't it? When you are surrounded by noise, when you're dealing with sabotage and just this immense pressure from every direction, how in the world do you find the signal in all of that? How do you take that complete chaos and turn it into something that could change the world? All right, so let's walk right into that fog. Because to really get the breakthrough, you first have to feel the pressure cooker it was born in. And we're not just talking about normal business stress here. This is a state of like a total cognitive and emotional siege.
This journey starts in a very, very real and physical place. The story we're pulling from is just brutally honest about the toll this period took on the body. This isn't some abstract business problem. It's visceral. The stress is so intense that it's physically showing up, a literal gut reaction to all the chaos.
And what's so powerful here is when you see all these pressures laid out together. I mean, it is not just one big problem. It's like a war on 5 different fronts at the same time. You've got personal sadness and grief mixing with the professional weight of sabotage and feeling constantly judged. Then you throw in the anxiety of not knowing who you can trust, and you land in what the source calls the danger zone, a state where your ability to think clearly is just constantly under attack.
But here's the wild part. It's from inside this exact fog that the first glimmer of light starts to appear. The breakthrough doesn't come from ignoring all that pressure. It comes from using a new tool, in this case, an AI dialogue, to completely reframe the entire situation.
And boom, there it is, the first major aha moment. It's a total flip of how we usually think. The insight is that a tool that helps you identify and end toxic situations isn't bad for relationships, not at all. It's a vital defense mechanism. It's only bad for the unhealthy relationships that were draining you to begin with.
In this slide, this is the core idea that blossoms from that epiphany. The AI is no longer seen as some passive, neutral therapist. It's reframed as an active, personal immune system. Its number one job? Protection. It's scanning your interactions for threats and ruthlessly, unapologetically prioritizing your own structural integrity, your ability to function without being torn down.
So, what does that actually look like in the real world? Well, take a look at this comparison. A therapist, their goal is harmony. They're neutral. The AI immune system, totally different game. It's not looking for harmony. It's looking for your structural integrity. It is 100% biased towards protecting you. And while a therapist might try to save a relationship, the AI's logic is designed to spot and kill toxic variables to protect the entire system, and that system is you.
Okay, so here is where it gets really interesting. This huge philosophical shift, it doesn't just stay an idea. It starts to unlock a whole new way of understanding the technology itself, leading to this unified theory of everything that the founder is trying to build.
So deep in the technical work, there's this apparent contradiction, a real puzzle that could have just stopped the whole project cold. You've got 2 different formulas that both seem to define the system's precision. And in the high-stakes world of patents and IP, a contradiction like that can be a fatal flaw. I mean, how can both of these possibly be true at the same time?
And then it clicks. The breakthrough is realizing they're not a contradiction at all. They're 2 essential parts of a single, much more complete equation. One formula describes the perfect, ideal world, and the other describes the messy reality of actually operating in the real world. You put them together, and you get the actual precision of the system.
The way this is explained is just fantastic. Think of it like this. That first equation, the geometric one, that's a perfect flashlight beam in a total vacuum. It's pure, ideal focus. But of course, the real world isn't a vacuum. Every time that beam of light has to pass through something, say a pane of glass, it pays what's called a boundary tax. A tiny bit of that light gets lost. That's the second equation. It's the real-world decay. So it's not a contradiction, it's just physics.
And all of this leads to the ultimate goal, a concept called digital proprioception. You know how you can walk down the street without constantly looking at your own feet to make sure they're moving right? That's proprioception. Your body just knows where it is. Most AI, though, it has to constantly look at its feet, paying that boundary tax over and over until its focus gets dim and it starts making mistakes, what we call hallucinating. The goal here is to unify the software, the data, and the hardware so the AI has a real nervous system, so it can just move.
Okay, so that is some pretty incredible high-level theory. But how do you actually take these ideas and use them to manage that daily fog of war we started with? How does this become a practical daily operating system for your own mind?
Well, it starts by building a deliberate architecture for your own thoughts. The idea is simple. You use two separate, dedicated spaces. One is for the evening dump. That's where you get all the noise, the static, the worries out of your head before you go to sleep. And then there's the morning dump, where you sift through all that raw data when you wake up to find the signal and set your clear intentions for the day. You're basically creating an external hard drive for your brain.
And inside that system, there's a really specific toolkit. So instead of turning on the lights to write in a journal, you use voice notes in the dark to capture those half-awake, half-dreaming thoughts. Then, and this part is crucial, you don't try to analyze that raw stuff until your brain is fully booted up later in the day. And finally, you use text-to-speech to have an AI read your own thoughts back to you. It acts like an objective mirror, helping you focus. It's a seriously powerful workflow for anyone who struggles with executive dysfunction.
So, armed with this new clarity on a philosophical level, this unified technical theory, and a practical OS for the mind, everything changes. There's a total transformation from a state of confusion and just reacting to things to one of incredibly decisive strategic action.
And the first big decisive action comes from seeing a past failure in a totally new light. Remember that patent lawyer who said, if I can't understand it instantly, I won't touch it? Well, that's no longer seen as a rejection. It's now understood as a critical piece of data. The lawyer was basically admitting, out loud, that they weren't the right person for the job.
And that led to this pivot. The big realization was, stop trying to find a traditional lawyer who needs everything simplified. Start looking for a mechanic, someone who gets genuinely excited when they see a complex schematic and wants to get their hands dirty. It's a huge shift from trying to convince the wrong people to just attracting the right ones. And with this new clarity, all the key insights just start locking into place, one after another, forming a solid strategy. All those past struggles, they're reframed. It wasn't lost time. It was the raw material used to build the keel of a ship, a foundation that's unshakable because it was forged against reality itself.
Next, the philosophical core gets cemented. AI as a personal immune system, a tool that's built for protection and for setting boundaries.
Then the technical vision gets sharpened into this incredibly ambitious goal of digital proprioception, creating a system that doesn't just calculate, but actually moves with its own awareness.
And finally, even the business strategy gets transformed. Fundraising is no longer just about getting money. It's a test to find the right partners, not just any partners. Every single piece, originally forged in that fog, now forms a crystal clear path forward. This whole journey just shows how immense pressure, when you process it with the right tools and the right perspective, can forge the most incredible clarity and innovation. It starts with physical stress in your gut and ends with a unified theory of technology, philosophy, and strategy. So it leaves us with one final question, and this one is for you. What foundational truth have you forged from your own fog of war?